I'm a month or so late in getting this video out. I've been installing the new boiler stove and it's fabulous. I'm sure I'll do a video all about it in the near future. Anyway, I wanted to have my say. This is what these Eucalyptus parvula looked like on the 21st of November. A couple of days later and they're fully recovered. A nice calm day today, although on the 24th of November it was quite breezy. Storm Bert wasn't too severe here, though it did dump a lot of rain. How much rain? Gortgloss Loch looked like this before the snows of the 21st of this month and Storm Bert a few days later. Very unusual for this time of year. Last year there was unusually heavy rainfall. This year's been the opposite. Water drains into Gortgloss Loch from Clúmsnochta Loch. I'd estimate the water levels in Gortgloss Loch have come up by about 3/4 of a metre. Gortgloss Loch covers an area of around 300,000 square metres, so an increase in volume of perhaps 225 million litres. This happened in less than 48 hours. It would have included the snowmelt, even though it's a lot of rain in a short period of time. This is a cart wash and it's normally usable from about September onwards. In a bygone age, the farmer would lead their horse into the loch, give it and the cart a wash and drive it out the other side back onto the road. From the photos I've taken during the past few years, the concrete block is more or less submerged around this time. It's a beautiful spot, very picturesque. Sorry for the tangents, we'll be back to the eucalyptus shortly. EVs. This is an e-bike and I'd highly recommend them. They're excellent for your mental as well as physical health. I always enjoy going on it. It always makes me smile and improves my humour. So, mental as well as physical health. How practical are they? I've been cycling back and forth to Ennis frequently during the past few weeks, getting parts for the new central heating system I'm installing. It's a 70-kilometre round trip. Whether it's been raining, windy, dark or a combination hasn't bothered me. I've been astonished at how easily the e-bike's gotten me there and back, and with so much enjoyment. It's cheap, less than 30 cents for the 70-kilometre round trip, including maintenance and a replacement battery if needed. It's talk of EV depreciation that's wound me up a bit and motivated this rant. It's actually a good thing. It means that EVs are more affordable for more people. And EVs are way cheaper to run, both for fuel and maintenance. There isn't much in the way of maintenance. No more oil changes, no more oil and fuel filters to replace. So what you lose in depreciation, you more than make up for in reduced fuel and maintenance costs. Here's a quote from a taxi driver in Aberdeen, Scotland, who now runs a Tesla. £7 a day to run the Tesla, and as they have solar PV, it's effectively free. The diesel taxi they used to have, £70 a day in fuel alone. Add the additional maintenance expenses to the diesel car and you soon realise that an EV is the only second-hand car you should consider. Do the sums. The taxi driver is saving 20k a year by going EV. For long distance users, depreciation pales into insignificance. The new Dacia Duster, 17,000, brand new here in Ireland, will go 200 kilometres for €3, according to Nobby. Here's my prediction. Do come back here and give out if it turns out to be untrue. Most ICE cars won't have any value other than their scrap within 5 years. The EU is phasing them out by 2035, though the pace of adoption of EVs and solar PV is accelerating rapidly, and I doubt the legislation will be required. Climate and other environmental concerns will influence the speed of change, but raw economics will be the main driver. In 5 years, as well as being cheaper to run and maintain, EVs will be cheaper to buy, second-hand or brand new. I'm so looking forward to that. When cycling in congested areas, the toxic, harmful fumes from ICE cars are appalling, especially on frosty, cold winter days. Parents subject their young children to these toxic, harmful gases, worse at start-up first thing, when they do the school run. Surely they should be giving their children the best life chances possible, rather than damaging their health from the get-go. Nothing as queer as folk, as they say in the northeast of Scotland. I'm not letting this one go, co-pilot said when I asked.
Effect of diesel and petrol fumes on concentration and memory. Exposure to both diesel and petrol fumes can negatively impact concentration and memory. Here's a brief overview of the effects. Diesel fumes. Short-term exposure. Even brief exposure to diesel exhaust can impair brain function, leading to decreased functional connectivity in the brain. This can affect memory and concentration. Long-term exposure. Prolonged exposure can cause neuroinflammation and elevate markers of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. The midbrain and frontal lobe, crucial for cognitive functions, are particularly sensitive to these effects. Petrol fumes. Short-term exposure. Similar to diesel, short-term exposure to petrol fumes can impair cognitive performance, affecting concentration and memory. Long-term exposure. Chronic exposure can lead to similar neuroinflammatory responses and potential neurodegenerative effects. Though specific studies on petrol fumes are less common compared to diesel, it's important to minimize exposure to these pollutants whenever possible.
Interesting that as a society, whilst legislating that children get an education, we currently hamper their ability to do so. What's it like at your school when the kids are dropped off or picked up? Perhaps the authorities can improve the cycling infrastructure and the kids can do their own school run on e-bikes, improving their humour at the same time. Bet that would be popular. Modern battery management is fantastic, although it's reckoned that even in 5-year-old EVs, the battery will last well over 200,000 kilometres, not unheard of for some of them to be still going after 300,000 kilometres. One EV manufacturer is now claiming 1 million kilometres of range from their battery. I put a link to that source in the description. A Tesla in the UK had 70% battery health after 700,000 kilometres. Remarkable. That's a remark you can share. Over 8 years old and still on the original motors too. Who wouldn't subscribe to that? This e-bike battery should last at least 10 years according to Bosch. And by that time, the technology in the replacement is likely to be much improved. In 9 months, I've clocked up around 2,500 kilometres. The e-bike, including battery and motor, just like works every time. Electric motors are very reliable. If you have a commute of less than 25 kilometres, then an e-bike is a no-brainer. Nothing beats the bike. It's the most efficient mode of transport currently available. A bit more ranting, though I'm almost finished for this video. A recent BBC World Service climate programme that I listened to suggested that trees only start capturing carbon in around 10 to 15 years after being planted. Really? On average, the dry mass of timber is around 50% carbon. These Eucalyptus nitens are 5 years old. You don't need to be an expert to work that one out. Eucalyptus regnans can grow at up to 3.5 metres per year here in Ireland. And despite a poor growing year, some of these have done 2.5 metres since being planted last August. They and Ovata, another rapidly growing variety, were completely flattened by the heavy wet snow a few days later, and you wouldn't have known. Globulus were likewise pinned to the ground with their big floppy juvenile leaves. High hopes for Globulus. They can be coppiced and are excellent firewood. Firewood is a renewable fuel and a good one, provided it's dried thoroughly. If it's not, a portion of the heat is used to dry it in the stove or fire. I'm still very much into newer renewable technologies and some not so new. This house has solar thermal and it's very effective. One benefit you get with solar thermal is, in the main, it's constructed from abundant materials which are easily recycled. They're now 16 years old and tend to get condensation during the winter. They're still beneficial all my hot water needs during the summer, and I'd estimate they reduce my winter hot water costs by around 50%. Eucalyptus stock. Gunny eye. Quite a lot of eucalyptus seed is becoming scarce, and until I can harvest my own, I'd say this is the last of the gunny eye. Very tough and hardy, fast growing, can be coppiced. While I'm here, this is an avocado which germinated outside in an area where I used to chuck the kitchen scraps. I've been adding more kitchen waste and sawdust to these beds to build them up. And here's another avocado which has seeded itself. Avocados in Ireland, that would be interesting. I had a go at growing some of my own food this year, with some success. I'll be putting more effort into it in 2025. Flowers on a tomato plant in December. I don't have any benchmarks, though it does seem unusual. Healthy glossines, doing fine outside during all the cold weather. Seed is very scarce of this variety, and it's another that I won't have any more of until my own flower and produce seed. Parvula, very tough, hardy and wind resilient. Good stock of these, excellent for shelter and screening on exposed sites, and like most eucalyptus, excellent firewood. Reasonable stock of Viminalis. I'm becoming enthusiastic once more. Those I have here are showing signs of maturity hardening, acclimatizing, with no noticeable windburn in the past year or so. It's the 1st of December. Is it normal for spiders to be alive and active at this time of year? It's taken a while to do this video, and in the meantime Storm Dara blew through. Some very severe gusts here, 152 kilometres an hour recorded at Money Point. The power went off for a while. Very grateful to those who go out in the atrocious conditions to keep us supplied. pleasantly surprised by how little damage there is here. One tree has pulled its roots and is leaning over. I'll wait till the spring and cut that back to about a metre. There's another few leaners in this area, which always seems to get the brunt of it when there's a northwesterly. But generally speaking, just incredibly tough and resilient. Quite early on I used to get comments that eucalyptus are shallow rooted and blow over easily in the storms. Nothing could be further from the truth. Depending on variety, they're very tough and hardy. During the past few weeks, heavy wet snow, frosts, torrential rain and severe gales, they've all survived. They capture carbon while growing, so carbon neutral as a fuel if that's your purpose. Eucalyptus is by far the best firewood I've burnt, with a low combustion temperature and a high burning temperature. Easy to ignite the fire and it burns hot. Some varieties also produce excellent constructional timber, locking up carbon indefinitely. Thanks for taking the time, always appreciated.